it's I don't know, it drains him. Maybe
Your husband doesn't like to talk at all.
he doesn't like to speak, I guess it is. He said it's too much for him and he gets overwhelmed. And I had shown him, you had that link for the for the men group, and he said he does not want to learn any social skills because he doesn't like to socialize. And he told me that there's nothing wrong with him and that I forgot exactly how he worded it. Something like, I should quit trying to change him because there's nothing wrong with him and he likes the way he is and he doesn't want to improve anything, I guess.
Okay, well, he doesn't like the way he is, for one thing. And the other thing is he knows that he sucks at social skills.
Yeah.
Because he probably learned that as a child. And so if you were a little kid and your parents signed you up for Little League or T-ball or whatever, and you just didn't have the knack for that, and you got benched, you just basically sucked. So you ended up kind of being the bat boy, and it was a terrible experience. I'm never playing baseball again. I suck at that. I was never any good at it. They started me way out in the outfield, and then the coach wasn't even happy with me way out there, and he just benched me, and I just sat on the bench the entire season. So now that I have been benched by the coach, and I know that I'm not a good baseball player, I don't want to. And then somebody comes along and says, "Oh, well, would you like to join this team and learn how to play baseball?" It's like, no, I've already been around that block. I suck at it. No, I don't have any interest in learning baseball or learning how to be a better pitcher or a better batter. And I'm perfectly fine not playing baseball. And so that's exactly what's going on with your husband, is that he knows he's terrible at it. He's had a bad experience with it. And talking is a social activity. Of course he doesn't want to talk. And it's a shame that he feels that way because social skills can be taught. And the give and take in conversation can be taught. And he would actually get to the point where he would probably enjoy conversing and enjoy talking because he's actually doing it fairly adeptly for the first time in his life. So he might even find some joy in having conversation about something other than his topic of interest.
Well, he said
my husband's the very same way.
What did you say, Margaret?
My husband says the very same thing. He doesn't want to talk. It's draining.
It is draining because it's a social activity. And as you guys may recall from last time, we talked about how the ASD brain is low in social and emotional intelligence. And so if you're low in social and emotional intelligence, you are going to suck at emotions vocabulary. You're going to be terrible at knowing how you feel and how your spouse feels. And conversation, unless it's about my special interest, drains my battery. The NT wife, you probably, when you go out and mix with your female friends, it probably charges your battery. You come home energized and revitalized. And when he goes out to try to socialize, when he gets home, his battery is dead. And he just wants to go hide somewhere and play on the computer or something like that. So anyway, what are we going to do with this? The only thing that I can do with this, since he's not here, is to ask you to be the messenger, and for whatever it's worth, which it won't be worth much because you ladies have probably already been around that block a time or two, is that you could just mention in passing, social skills can be taught. And there's this, I'm going to hunt it up right now. There's this ASD men's only Facebook support group, and all the guys in there have the same deal going on. I'm going to put the link to it here in this message chat area over there on the right. And they don't have to get in here and talk. They can just come in here and see what other people have to say. There's no obligation.
See, I can't even get my husband to watch any of your videos on YouTube. Like, I just wanted him to watch like one video, and he won't do it. He's like, no, there's nothing wrong with me. He thinks I'm like trying to label him and call him dumb.
Yeah, I know. And I don't have anything to add to what I already said. He doesn't.
Yeah.
Believe me, he knows he has a problem. When he says, "Oh, I don't think I have a problem," you just bought a line of bullshit. He knows that from a very early age, something was not quite right. And
Well, he didn't talk until he was 4. So
okay, so that just proves my point. I'm sure his
Yeah.
parents probably mentioned at some point, what's your husband's name?
Carl.
Carl, you didn't talk until you were 4 years old. That's just a little atypical there. Most people are talking like around, at least gerbling around 2-ish. So he already knows that something was not quite right. And if he has autism, ASD level 1, he probably was, he might have been bullied as a child. He might have got ostracized from his peer group, rejected, teased, and so on. So he may not want to admit it because honestly, it's almost too painful to admit, but he knows something was not quite right with him. And it's a shame that he doesn't want to figure it out, because a lot of times if you get the diagnosis, not that I'm big on necessarily doing that, but a lot of times it's a revelation, especially for the NT wife. It's like, I thought I was just dumb all this time. I thought I was just inept. But it's this disorder. So it wasn't me, it was the disorder, and it wasn't my fault. I'm still experiencing the consequences associated with the disorder, but it wasn't some kind of personal flaw on my part. There's no shame in the fact that I have this disorder, because 5 million other people have it, many of which have gone on to do very great things. The guy that invented this computer that we're on had Asperger's syndrome. The guy that invented Facebook, the Facebook that I just put up there, he has Asperger's syndrome. So there's a sense of shame, Jenny, that your husband has, that's too painful for him to want to admit that he has this disorder, because he thinks, oh, it's a disease, or that means I'm mentally retarded. So it's a shame he doesn't want to educate himself, because if he were to educate himself, he would find out that there's infinitely more strengths. If he has the disorder, there's infinitely more strengths associated with the disorder than deficits.
Can I ask you, what do you think the odds are that if he had every single trait that he hasn't been diagnosed that I know of, because I kind of wonder if he did maybe know and he just doesn't tell me, but he read through the list of traits and he pretty much has every single one. And he told me that every single trait for Asperger's describes every single male, and that somebody made it up, and that they're just saying that to pick on men and make up a name for them.
Okay. What you're hearing there is his defense against the shame that he perceives is associated with having the disorder.
But what are the odds that you think that somebody actually would get diagnosed, if they have every single trait?
You mean volunteer to go get a diagnosis?
Okay, no. I'm pretty sure he has it, even though I haven't been handed a piece of paper saying that he has it. But what are the odds are that he wouldn't have it and he's got some other sort of learning disability?
If he says, and I'm assuming he wouldn't lie about this, if he's looking at all of these traits listed online and he ticks every box, then the chances are about 100%.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Just going on his self-report. And I know he wouldn't lie about it.
No, he's pretty
If anything, if he wanted to lie about it, he would say, oh, well, only about 2 or 3 of those things apply to me.
But he did tell me he thinks that they describe every single man.
Yeah, well, he's deluded. And the reason he's deluded is because he senses that there's just too much shame to admit. This is a very odd analogy, Jenny, but it may help you understand. Let's use an example of a little girl that got raped by her father. It's so shameful to admit it. And at some level, you think that maybe you contributed to it, that you keep it hidden, and you don't even broach the topic. When in fact, she didn't do anything wrong, and it wasn't her fault, even 1%. So what you're dealing with, Jenny, is he can't, in his way of thinking about the disorder, there would just be too much shame involved, and too much, and if he were to admit that he had that, he would feel just his self-esteem it's probably already in the toilet, but to admit that would probably just end up flushing his self-esteem down the toilet. In his mind, that's a thinking error that he's having a host of thinking errors.
Would I ever be able to teach him any social skills, or would that probably not?
Only if you framed it as something that had nothing to do with autism. You wouldn't
He,
even want,
like,
you wouldn't even
literally,
want to
he can
mention
go
the
like a
word.
whole week without speaking to me. Like he won't say one single word. Like he's perfectly happy not talking at all.
Well, sure. That's like the guy that sucked at the little boy that sucked at baseball. He's perfectly happy never touching a baseball bat again.
So is there another way I could communicate with him? Like if he won't interact with me, I don't know how to get him to. Because sometimes I have to talk to him about something, you know, and it's really, really hard to like
Well,
live with somebody.
when he's resistant, Jenny, I want you to think, I want you to have this thought. He's not being resistant because he's purposely trying to be obstinate. He's being resistant because there's too much of a sense of shame for him to admit to it. And so when you see this resistance, just remind yourself that this is a shame cover-up. And then you can go about the business of doing compassionate coaching without mentioning anything about autism. Carl, when we were at that party the other day and you said such and such and it offended the one lady, yeah, it would have been helpful if you maybe would have said this instead, and I don't think she would have taken it wrongly. That's just an example where you may point something out to him after the fact in a very short, concrete, non-judgmental way and just mention to him, well, what you're really saying is you kind of made a social mistake back there that makes you look like an asshole. And everybody was kind of offended by what you said, and everybody was taken aback, and they thought, wow, I can't believe Carl said that. But that's not how you're going to frame it. You're going to frame it something very soft. Carl, that one thing that you said to that lady, and you know she took it wrong. Well, the reason she took it wrong was because of blah, blah, blah. I just thought I'd let you know. So
that never happens because he doesn't talk to anybody.
But you understand what I'm saying. You can tactfully point out some things that could fall into the category of giving him a little bit of a social skills tip.
Maybe she needs more help in the direction of what you mentioned to me the other day, is when my husband doesn't talk, if I can think of something that he's really interested in and I can just comment on that. And if she can just get him to make one or two comments and then leave it till the next time and then mention something and get him to make one or two comments, ask his advice on something and just gradually ease him into one thing at a time.
Jenny, I'm sure Carl has something that he's interested in. It's not talk.
Yeah, but it's definitely not. I'm tired of it. No, yeah, he's obsessed with trains and he does like his job, and I'm not interested in either one. Okay. I've heard it all about it though. I mean, I have, but I don't want to spend my whole entire weekend like watching.
No, but like Margaret was saying though, when you want to get him to crawl out of his hole and have a couple words of exchange with you, you could ask something about his special interest and get him to open up for a little bit of conversation. But you don't have to sit there and have listen to a 1 hour monologue about, the benefit of, whatever kind of train engine that he's interested in or whatever. So you just keep it short and sweet. If he drones on, you go, oh, I got to save the baby from drowning in the backyard pool. I'll be right back, honey. All that thought. Anyway, that's a good idea, Margaret. So, Jenny, what do you do with that? The only thing you can do is be a compassionate coach, very tactful in those moments where he clearly is doing something that is offensive or harmful. Short of that, when he is having this resistance, remind yourself that it's a shame cover-up. It's a toxic shame cover-up. There's such a thing as healthy guilt and toxic guilt. There's such a thing as healthy shame and toxic shame. And he has both toxic shame and toxic guilt. So healthy guilt is, I did something wrong. I didn't mean to do it, but I see now that it was a mistake. Toxic guilt is, I'm always doing something wrong. I'm always saying something inappropriate. I'm always doing something inappropriate. I am a mistake. Healthy shame is, I did something wrong that hurt somebody else, and I intended to hurt that person. I was out for revenge, and it was my intention to hurt that person. But now I realize in retrospect, it's not the kind of person I want to be. I don't want to be that kind of person, and therefore I'm going to try to make amends to the person that I hurt, and I intend not to do that again. Toxic shame is because I make all these mistakes, therefore I am a mistake. And because that's something that is so almost subhuman, I have to cover that up and I can't let anybody know that I'm really subhuman, that I really don't measure up and that there really is something wrong with me at my core. So just remind yourself when he's resistant, quote unquote, it's a toxic shame cover up. And that's
But
what
how do you resolve conflict then if you can't like verbally communicate with somebody?
if he's not going to talk about the problems, then I guess you're going to have to set some serious boundaries with him.
Because like if I talk to him, he doesn't respond. He doesn't answer questions. Sometimes he sits there, but I can't tell if he's listening to me. And frequently he'll walk out of the room. Or if I talk too loud, he'll tell me I'm stressing him out and he'll run away and hide, or he'll just like leave.
I need your help with this problem. If you choose not to help me with this problem, then I'm going to have to find another route to go.
Then he'll tell me to go find another route to go.
Okay, so give me an example. Let's plug it in.
Okay, like the house is a mess. I mean, I need help picking it up. I need him to either take a kid and hold the baby so I can do the dishes without the, or, anything. And he'll do, I don't know. He doesn't there's not a lot of eye contact. And he might promise me, he'll say, yeah, I can help. I can do that. I can do whatever. But then he doesn't do anything. He'll go hide in the garage and be like, okay, I'm going to go do something. I'm helping. And then if I go in the garage, I'm like, can you please watch kids? Can you help me? Whatever. And then he'll get mad and say I'm yelling at him. And then and then he'll just like leave.
Okay. So he is socially, emotionally, he's like a teenager. Maybe
or a 2-year-old even. I feel like I can have a better conversation with a 2-year-old.
So you have to think in terms of treating him like, okay, we'll use the term 2 years old. That's fine. Yep. Thinking in terms of treating him not in a shameful way. When I say this, I'm getting ready to say you're going to have to treat him as a child. And I don't mean that in like you being parental and scolding him or anything like that, but I mean you're going to have to set some consequences with him in the same way that you would with the child. And I don't know what that would look like. If you have a joint account, if you can't help me, well, I'm going to hire a babysitter, or I'm going to hire a house cleaner, or you may have to take some things and put them in a closet somewhere where you clean up one time and you put everything away, and you can just shut the door and keep the stuff in there. I could come up with ideas all day long, but it's going to have to involve tough love on your part, and it's going to get worse before it gets better when you implement this tough love. But it's the only route. There's only 2 routes to go with what you just said, because he's not going to cooperate. We don't have the luxury of having him cooperate. So you're going to have to do one of 2 things. You're going to have to do it on your own, or continue to complain to him that he's not helping, or you're going to have to take matters into your own hand and be the adult in the family and start addressing the situation in the same way as if he was your 8-year-old son.
See, I can control a kid better than I can control him, though, because he can just leave. Mm-hmm. My kids don't, run away from me.
So that's the best I can do with that. If he's not going to cooperate, you're going to have to set some serious hard limits and employ some tough love. And here's what you're going to have to do. And I don't know how this is going to look because I'm not there in the house and I don't know him that well, but here's what you want to remember. You want to make not cooperating with you more painful than cooperating with you. Or we could flip it around the other way. You want to set it up to where cooperating with you is less painful than not cooperating with you. So there has to be a cost for him to not cooperate. You have to set up a situation where if he does not cooperate, he suffers a significant natural consequence that's undesirable in his mind. And it has to hurt. He has to go, wow, I'm not sure I want to avoid doing that anymore because it causes me too many problems.
So I guess I'd have to have something that he wants then, right?
That would be a start, yeah.
Because he literally can hide from me for a really long time. He'll leave at he works for his dad, so he can go to work whenever he wants. He loves his job. He will leave before anybody wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't even think he needs sleep. He barely sleeps. He doesn't sleep good. He's up all night long, it seems like. he will purposely not come home till after I put the kids to bed so that he doesn't have to help with anything and the house is quiet.
You need to be
So-
think in terms of what can I do I'm going to have to start treating him like a child in the consequence department. And what can I do to set up a situation where not cooperating with the family is more painful, much more painful than cooperating with the family. I got to move on. We're hogging up all the time. You're my fault.
Sorry.
Anybody else got a question? I know that doesn't help you much, Jenny, and that puts the ball directly in your court, and it is going to get worse before it gets better. And we can explore this again very soon to narrow down some exact things that you need to do. But you're going to have to muster up some tough love, and you may have to be, and I hate to use this term, no offense, ladies, please, you may have to turn into a little bit of a bitch. Make sense? Now you might be thinking, well, if I do that, he'll never be around. Okay, well then
Isn't now.
you've lost one less child in the house messing the place up. I hope that wasn't offensive. He may just get so tired of your nagging that he'll follow through just to get you to shut up. It's happened. And by the way, that's not a female thing. Men do a lot of bitching too. One thing that I do feel like compelled to talk about, even though we're kind of on the same topic, and I want to come up with a script, and it ties into what Jenny was wanting to address, but this will apply to everybody. And this is the business of when you need him to cooperate with you, and he's resistant, just like Carl. So what I want all the ladies in here to try is, and I'm gonna type out a script here for you. And I'm going to put it over here in the message box right now. That's one version. I think I want to go with a larger version of that. I'm going to remove that because I want to give you a detailed script. So, ladies, when you're wanting him to cooperate with you on something and he seems resistant, this may be something that you could use verbatim. The first thing is when, and in that blank right there, can you guys see the thing I just posted over there in the chat area? If not, when we hang up later, it'll be in the text box. I'll describe it if you can't see it. The first step would be when, and in that blank there, you're going to describe what happened without using the word you. And I'm going to run with Jenny's example. When there's a mess in the house. So that's step one. I hope you can see that script as I describe it. The second step is it creates a problem for me because blah, 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 blah. And there you're going to describe how his behavior affected you. So when there's a mess in the house, it creates a problem for me because I have to stop watching the kids and stop what I'm doing and then tend to all these other things. Step three, I know that you blah, 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 blah. And in there, you're going to state his motive for not wanting to help or his purpose, but you're going to kind of put a positive spin on it. So there's three, and then there's 3A, and then there's 3B. This step three has two components to it. I know that you prefer engaging in your fun stuff rather than, I'm not sure exactly how you would want to word this, Jenny, but I know that doing chores is not your favorite activity. And then 3B is because you blah, 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 blah. And in there, you're going to attach a positive motive to his behavior. This is called positive reframing. So I know that doing chores is not your favorite thing because you like to engage, you like to spend a lot of time with your trains or whatever. And then step 4 is, but I'd rather we come up with a plan where we, and then in that blank, you're going to fill in the new choice that hopefully has a positive outcome for both of you. I'd rather we come up with a plan where we can just spend a few minutes, maybe just 5 to 10 minutes. We'll both work on it at the same time and knock out some of this mess real quick. So in the important part of this script here is you're trying to avoid as much as possible the term you. So you're not saying, well, Carl, when you do this and when you don't do that, and he's automatically going to feel attacked. So you're avoiding the attack problem. In step 2, you're taking ownership of the problem. You're saying it creates a problem for me because blah, blah, blah. So you're actually taking ownership of the problem rather than accusing him that he's the cause of the problem. And then in step 3, you're actually attaching a positive motive to his behavior. And then in step 4, you're trying to recruit him as a partner in problem solving or to be a team player. So I'm going to make up an example that doesn't apply perfectly to Jenny's example, but it goes something like this. When there's a mess in the house and it goes unattended to for a period of time, it creates a problem for me because then I have to tend to several things at once. I know that you prefer not doing chores or helping out because you have better things to occupy your time. But I'd rather we come up with a plan where we could maybe spend just 10 minutes, Carl, just 10 minutes. All I need is 10 minutes, and we hustle and we get some of this mess up, and then you can go do your thing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, can I just say one thing? Like, he will agree to stuff in the moment. He'll be like, okay, but then he doesn't follow through.
We're not talking about a future event. That's a good point,
Show up
Jenny.
at 8 o'clock.
That's a good point, Jenny. But when you present this to him, it's a let's do it now real quick thing. So when you're using the script, and you can try it, it may not work for you. It works for a lot of people, but maybe not in your case. But this isn't, I'd rather come up with a plan where, tomorrow we clean this up. No, I'd rather we come up with a plan where we spend just 5 to 10 minutes and hustle and get it done. And can we just do it now? Well, no, I'm busy right now. Okay, I'm going to do it 15 minutes from now. You try to narrow him down on a time that's relatively close to the time that you deliver this statement. You don't want it to be an hour from now or tomorrow. You want it to be sometime within the hour. Can we do this? The two of us. I'll help you. Get the kids involved. Well, we'll call it family pickup time. And everybody, we make a game out of it. We're going to spend the next 10 minutes of putting everything in its place. And one of the reasons he may be resistant, Jenny, is because it seems too overwhelming if there's a lot of mess. And he's like, I don't know where to start, and it's going to take forever. So if you just dive in there and keep the cleanup time short and sweet, then he may not be so overwhelmed. Could you discuss issues around an Asperger's? What was that? Somebody sent a message here. Who sent that message?
I don't even see it. Mark, about this thing that you just the script, doesn't that rely on your Asperger partner to have some empathy, which he doesn't have?
I don't think so. No. Okay. You're not talking about feelings here. Remember, your guy is very task oriented.
Okay.
This isn't a conversation about, hey, can we come up with a plan where we sit down at the dining room table and talk about how I feel?
Okay.
The plan is to achieve a particular task.
Okay. So step 2, I guess I was looking at, because it's similar to an old format that always involved feelings, but you're talking about just some logistical thing.
Yeah, you're not talking about how you feel. You're talking about how it created a problem for you.
Right.
In a non-blaming fashion.
Okay.
So step 1, you're avoiding blaming. Step 2, you're taking ownership of the problem. So indirectly, you're avoiding the blame game again. You're not saying, well, you created this problem. No, you're saying it created a problem. This thing causes a problem for me because blah, 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 blah. Okay. I know that you are interested in other things because you're going to attach a positive motive here. It's called positive reframing because up until now, you may have approached him in a way where he feels like he's to blame and that he's supposed to be the one to change and it's all his fault, blah, blah, blah. So this hopefully eradicates all of those pitfalls. Margaret, I can't hear you. I see you talking. Flip it again.
It
There you
says
go.
mute now.
There, now you're good. Now I hear
Oh,
you.
I get that one. Okay. It's a little confusing to me, like you said, these men are often task oriented,
Uh-huh.
and I can understand that. But then at the same time, at least my husband procrastinates. He never finishes anything. And those things seem to be opposite to me.
It is somewhat opposite. He's task oriented mostly with the tasks that he enjoys doing. But if you, and the reason that they procrastinate is because one of the things that comes with the territory with ASD is obsessive compulsive behavior and perfectionism and also anxiety. So whenever there is an unwanted task that falls outside of their special interests, they view that as boring, overwhelming, and I got to have all my ducks in a row before I can take step one in the sequence here, which is the perfectionism piece. There's boredom, there is anxiety, this task is too overwhelming, and then there's the perfectionism. Those three things get in the way for them to dive into a task. So if you break up the tasks that you want them to do, when possible, into smaller chunks, like I was talking with Jenny a little bit ago, I said 10 minutes. So if you want him to do something, and this is a huge project that's going to take several hours or several days, he's going to procrastinate because it's too overwhelming, and plus he's going to wait for the perfect moment and to get all his ducks in a row before he takes step one, and you'll never get anything done that way. So it would be good for you to articulate. It doesn't have to be done perfectly, and it would be helpful if you just started on it. And I understand that some things you can't just start and then finish it up later on. But the other 80% of things can be, he could just do 10 or 15 minutes of it. And then just do 15 minutes, and then you can pick it up again tomorrow. And when it's possible, if you can break up a very unwanted, stress-induced task or project for him, if you could help him understand he can break this thing up, instead of getting the whole damn thing done in one day, why don't you break it up into 15, 20-minute increments and get it done over the next 2 weeks? Now, you've removed, in my little ideal world here, you've removed the anxiety because now he doesn't have to do it perfectly. And you've removed the procrastination because he doesn't feel like he's going to have to spend a ton of time on it in any one chunk. Just little tiny pieces. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite
at a time.
Yeah. So he's looking at that project that you want him to do as a big elephant. It's like, there's no way. I'll get to it later on. I'll get to it someday. And when he says that, he probably, most cases, he means he'll get, but it's like, I can't eat that whole elephant. Just take one bite then. Just take one bite. Just get started. I'll be happy. You'll be happy. Susan? What did you just say? My husband woke up after he created a crisis, then with the energy that he finally got on task and did something useful. Oh, meanwhile, I felt battered. Yeah. So can you give me an example, Susan?
I'd asked him to book our vacation time weeks ago. He finally booked it, and he works in retail, so it was the last minute, and it coincided with time for a family event. And then the family was asking when we might get together, and this time to celebrate Michael's mom's 85th birthday. And so then I felt squeezed in between these demands, and bad that we hadn't got out ahead and got our vacation time in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I couldn't figure out, because no weekend to me looked really viable for visiting. and having our vacation. And we really need this. We're actually exploring cities we might move to. And we got limited time. So we started the process of saying, okay, we do this family visit. But then I looked at how they were managing the contagion protocols, and I said, no, that's not safe. So then we bailed, and then they got mad. And so then I can see both sides. And he was just mad at his family for being mad at us. And I said, well, they do have a point. And he couldn't see it. And after a while, I was able to describe it from their point of view and from ours.
Mhm.
And so then he was upset. And it was just really upsetting. He'd missed the point where it was just to celebrate his mom's birthday. And so then I'm just done. I can't be the one in the middle. I can't be appeasing his family who kind of accepts us,
Mhm.
but but they don't really get who we are or how we are. So then I just felt like distressed. I had been trying to get ready for this vacation so that I'd be ready, like have all the stuff ready and be emotionally ready for what we're doing. But
Mhm.
instead, I just felt shattered for a few days. But then after he got over the family thing, then he got on it and he booked the hotel rooms, and he was clear-minded doing that. And he said, is this okay? And I said, I'm assuming you're clear-minded and this is right because I'm not. So we'll have to go with what you've just figured out.
Mhm.
So then I have to like completely reassemble myself just to be able to go. And it's like living with an alcoholic in many ways.
Mhm. Sure is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're back to this business of executive function deficits and planning
Hello,
and
ADD here.
and, and planning and organizing is one. And we just discussed with Jenny the business of procrastination and perfectionism and OCD and anxiety over a project. And so when you're planning a trip, there's multiple steps. And so I'm going to make up an example that's very reminiscent of what can occur, which may not have occurred with you, Susan, is he's with the executive function deficit and the overly logical brain, you get stuck on the detail and you have a hard time seeing the big picture. So the big picture is, well, we got to book the flight, we got to get the rental car, we have to find the hotel, we have to set up this, we have to make sure we have our license for the blah blah, and there's a lot of steps involved. And with everything that I just described, he doesn't know where to start, and the whole goddamn thing just seems so stressful that he doesn't even want to start. So it would be helpful in those cases where you have the mental and emotional fortitude to do so, is to give him a rough draft of the steps. I'm not asking you to be the planner or the organizer, but you could suggest, okay, my suggestion is you start with this, and then the next thing would be this, and then that, and then that, and then that. That took me what? What I just said there with my hand motion, that took me 10 seconds. You can even write it down. So when he's so over, if he could, I would say write it down. Be sure to write it down. Because when he can see it, they're visual learners in a verbal world, and they don't do well with verbal instruction. When they can see, okay, the first thing to do is that, and then the second thing is that, and then the third. So now he not only knows all the steps in the process, because he gets stuck on details. He can't see the big picture. You've just given him the big picture. So now he sees the big picture, and he knows what order to do the steps in. You've just solved two big problems. I see the big picture now, and I know the order of steps. You filled in two huge blanks.
I do that for him all the time. I mean, we also need to move house, and he's working part-time, and there's like just a ton of stuff that we're needing to do, wanting to do. But I'm like, just a lot that we need to do. We need to declutter, decide where we want to move to, and figure out all that stuff. And one other thing was we needed to know if he quit his job, if he would have any income. Because if we leave it,
you've got a lot of things going on here.
Yeah.
And so what I would want you to do then is I want you to come up with, here, I'm just going to, you need to come up with a schematic or a flow chart, we'll call it. And I'm going to give you one here in just a second.
Okay.
So So you know what a flow chart is. I hope you guys, I hope you can see this over here. So we have problem number, we have issue number one. I'm just using the term issue. That would be like one of them is moving, one of them is vacation. I'm going to make these examples up. One of them is you finding a new job. So you're going to list the main, what term do we want to use? We want to use the term, these are the big goals. These are the big goals that you're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
And so, and you put this on paper, and beside this one Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, these are the major goals. Now, we're not going to go through all 5 here. We'll just use the first one as the example. So under Roman numeral 1, there's going to be A, B, and C. Those are the objectives. Let's say that A, B, and C is subsumed under Roman numeral 1. You have A, B, C subsumed under Roman numeral 2, and so on. You with me so far? So A, B, and C, and there may be D, E, F, and G for all I know, are the objectives to reach that goal. So we have, in this case, A, B, and C, which are the objectives to reach goal 1. And then under A, there may be sub-objectives. Whoops. So now we have Roman numeral 1, we have A, and under A, we have 1, 2, 3, however many numbers we need, and these are sub-objectives to reach the objective.
Okay.
And you may need to even go further. Under Arabic numeral 1, you may have A, B, C. So let me plug in an example so this is not too abstract. Roman numeral 1 is the things that we need to do to get ready to move or to consider moving. That's all you're going to put there in Roman numeral 1. Then you're going to have Roman numeral 1A, and then there you're going to put, well, we need to declutter. B, we need to, I'm just making examples up. We need to contact a realtor. C, we need to visit the city that we're considering moving to. D, E, F, and so on. And now I'm going to go back to capital letter A and the sub-objectives to reach A. Let's say that A is talk to the realtor.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've got 3 or 4 or 5 things you need to consider in getting a realtor, and what kind of conversation you want to have with them, and what kind of price range you're looking at, and so on. So I hope that wasn't too abstract, but if you could literally take that and type it in a Word doc with space beside each of these things, and you could even put it to where you could print it out and then you could handwrite on there what you're going to do. So again, we're back to the same discussion that we had earlier about having things written out. So now that he knows the gestalt.
Mm-hmm.
Now he knows the big picture now. And he has some semblance of the order of steps. And this thing will have to be edited over time, because as you get deeper into getting stuff done, things will change, and you'll need to go back and rearrange a few things and maybe add a new objective or subtract an objective or whatever. But here you have the big picture that he can literally see.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have the order of steps. If you wanted to go the extra mile here, Susan, and I'm glad this is on video because it's too much to type.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to go the extra mile within each of these individual bullet points here, you could add a timeline. So we want to get A done by such and such a date. We want to try to get B done by such and such a date. We want to try to get C done by such and such a date. So now you have the big picture, you have the order of steps, and you have a timeline of which you're hoping to accomplish the thing.
Okay.
That takes the big puzzlement out of the equation because it's right there in black and white. And that by default has to reduce some of the anxiety, because some of the anxiety is, I don't know where to start. And even if I did know where to start, I wouldn't know what to do after that. So since you've removed that from the equation with this flow chart, that at least removes the anxiety associated with starting, associated with knowing what to do and when.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I would add as an addendum to this, it would be helpful, and I probably don't even need to tell you this, to have his input, because you want him to have some buy-in and some ownership to this process. And
Yep.
if you ask, even we don't even necessarily need his input, if you would ask for his input anyway, then he will feel like he's contributing to this plan. And then he'll have ownership in it and be more inclined to follow through with it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
rather than something that you impose on him and now this is something that you've just thrown in his lap, more work for him type. There's a team spirit here.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else got a situation?
I think, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think for me, my biggest issue is like I feel grief. Like I'm kind of mourning
Mm-hmm.
the fact that I'm 53 and having to like learn a new language.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't think I would be doing this shit at 53.
Sure.
That's the part that's a struggle for me, is like, wow, everything just takes so much effort. Or I could continue on as we have been, where I don't put any effort and I just act as if I'm dealing with a neurotypical person and everything just goes to shit.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, in order for it to all go right, I'm having to put in so much effort, and he's really trying too. But it's like, oh my God, I'm grieving that part for sure. It's a struggle. I know all the steps, you know, I know all the logical things, and I've thought a lot about last week's meeting during my interactions with him this week, and thought about how I could have done things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like right in the moment, you can't always get there. You can't always pull out your notepad. And I know at some point, some of this will become second nature, but then when I sit and reflect back, I think, pardon my language, but fuck, why is it me? Why do I need to be the one to have to reframe and have to do this and have to, you know, and he's taking your class tomorrow. So I'm hoping there's going to be some learning on that end, but all of that is a struggle for me. That's where I'm at. So I don't have a particular question. I mean, we have so many scenarios that pop up every week, but that's my biggest issue. I'm feeling grief for the couple that I thought we would be at this age.
Yeah, that's very common. The cycle, and I won't go into this very much because I'm preaching to the choir, but the cycle goes similar to this. It's like, I know something's not quite right with him, and I haven't quite put my finger on. This is before you've done your research, right?
Mm-hmm.
And something's just not quite right. I don't feel like I'm very important to him, and he doesn't reciprocate very well, and you're kind of scratching your head, and you're going, hopefully this is just a phase rather than a pattern with him. And then as the years roll by, you go, oh, this definitely is not a phase. It's a pattern. It's not getting any better. I guess this is how it's going to go. And then you get fucking pissed. Just like you said. It's like, why in the hell do I have to do all the relationship work?
Mm-hmm.
And then she may start trying to come up with some solutions. Maybe if I am nicer, or maybe if I'm tougher, or maybe if we go to counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe if he gets on some medication, or maybe if this happens. And so she gives it her best shot. Her intentions were good. She was doing the only thing she needed to do at the time, but unfortunately, in damn near every case, she shot herself in the ass and made a bad problem worse. And now it's like, okay, you know what? I've tried every damn thing I know to do, and it's actually getting worse. And now she gets downright depressed and can be very resentful.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're into the Cassandra syndrome business and all of that. And then she does her research and she goes, oh, this is what I'm dealing with. So now it makes sense to me why we have struggled like this, because I don't speak Asperger's.
I
And
don't.
so that's why we had this disconnect all this damn time.
Mm-hmm.
So now she starts learning how to speak Asperger's, And she tries a few things, and especially lucky for you, Barbara, that he's trying to work stuff on his end. So now you got two people that are, he's trying to learn how to speak neurotypical. He will be after I get done with him. And then you're kind of learning how to speak Asperger's. And so now there's a little bit of hope. It's not, before it was, this is him, this is you, and there's this huge disconnect.
Yeah.
It's never going to be like this.
Yeah.
But it might be like that.
I told him last week.
That's a start, and that's an improvement. And
after our video session last week, I said to him, you know, once you start yours, it's not only you have to sit and watch or participate in the weekly video, you have to implement it. I said, if you don't, that would be like you going to learn Japanese and never going to Japan and never reading a Japanese book and never interacting with someone in Japanese language.
Right.
Yeah, I said to him, if you don't implement it and work with the tools that we're given, then it's pointless. I mean, I strongly believe he's so willing. He's like almost more willing than me at this point, because I'm just so over it. But
well, you're in a lucky spot then. And then the other
the
other thing I would say to you, Barbara, and the other ladies in here too, is you have kind of, I'm not blaming you, and I know you've done the best that you know how to do given the circumstances, but you have in your effort to try to keep the seams from busting, you have
perpetuated the problem.
You've taken on too much responsibility, and he got used to it.
Oh.
You volunteered to take the lion's share of the relationship work, and God bless you for doing it. I know your heart was in the right place, but then you started doing that, and he got used to doing it. So that means, okay, well, she's doing all the work. I guess I don't have to work. It's kind of like the same thing with a child, where you go in and you help him with his homework, and he sits back and watches you do his homework. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I don't have to do my homework. She comes in and helps me out. Mm-hmm. So he stops doing his homework, and you're stuck with it all the time. So in addition to what we just talked about, Barbara, the other part of the equation is all of you all in here are going to have to start, as much as it's going to be painful to hear, you're going to have to start backing off. Because and you used the term, I wasn't going to use that term, but you used it, you're enabling him. And so you need to start backing off and let him sink. And he's not dumb. He's probably smarter than me. So he won't stand for sinking for very long before he'll learn how to swim. And you don't want to just go cold turkey. If you've been doing 99% of the work, you just want to unplug it. Now you're down to 1%. You want to back off slowly over time and put him more and more and more in charge, and more. And you raise your expectations up a little bit over time, and you start slowly throwing the ball back in his court. Not that it's ever totally in his court. You're still going to share the ball, but you're not going to be playing ping pong by yourself anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, I think my husband has always played ping pong with me, only we were taught different versions of ping pong, if you know. Mm-hmm. So he's always participated. He's helpful around the house. He's communicative. He is so in love with me after all these years, and wants to do the relationship. That one of the big problems is that we have different versions of how to do that and what that looks like. So for him, telling me 50 times in one day that he loves me should equate to I love you, where for me, I just got diagnosed with MS last year. So when I got diagnosed, he had zero reaction. Later in the year, I fell out in my garden, and I'm laying on the ground and zero reaction. A week and a half ago, I fell down my gardening steps, zero reaction. So to me, those are the things that say I love you, is having a reaction to my distress, right? And so we talk about this stuff. He's been putting in the work, but just in a different game, it seems. You know?
It's not that he didn't give a shit that you fell down yourself.
No, I know.
He doesn't have. He has empathy, he just doesn't have displayed empathy.
Yes, and He does for other things, like, for example, when Kobe Bryant died, he was distraught, absolutely distraught.
So, yeah.
Absolutely distraught. when our dog passed away a couple of months ago, absolutely distraught.
The other thing,
with me,
the other thing that happens with a lot of times, Barbara, is when something very stressful happens, and that's watching your wife get injured is very stressful. It's a knee-jerk reaction that happens at an unconscious level to shut your emotions off.
yeah, and I can see it.
Yeah, it's kind of like this is a gross exaggeration, but it's kind of like a situation where you're in a bad car accident and there's serious injury and fatalities and you're kind of in this state of shock and you just jump into action and then it's not until days later that you crash
Yeah.
and you realize just how emotionally overwhelming that thing was. It's similar. I know that doesn't quite fit
No, I get it.
the analogy, but in moments of crisis and that's associated with anxiety, it's not uncommon for him to just shut down completely.
Yeah.
And then it looks like he doesn't care. It looks like he doesn't care.
Well, since my being on the Asperger's language path, I can see that he cares. I literally can see the shutdown moment. It just kind of like he can go from a smile to just an absolute flat face, almost as though you'd taken a picture and it just stopped there. So I can see it and I can recognize it for what it is. I've actually been like, dude, I'm over here hurt. Can you fucking get up and come help me? Because in the moment when I've just fallen, I'm not thinking about, okay, let me frame this properly to get the right reaction. You know, I'm laying there on the ground with my legs in the air. I'm backwards, like down my gardening hill. And so do you see what I'm saying? Those are the sorts of things that I'm struggling with, is finding the right words at the right moment, and the moment is usually in some sort of distress, and then just grieving all of that, just in the after the fact, just thinking, oh God, like, why can't I just be 53 and he just be 60 and us be normal? And
Why don't you come up with I know this isn't a magic bullet, but why don't you come up with, and you can do this today if you want, come up with a scale. We'll use a 1 to 5 scale. What's your husband's name?
Ron.
So it needs to be 1 to 5. I wouldn't do 1 to 10. It's too much leeway. And so you have a talk with Ron later today about Ron. I want to use this scale thing 1 to 5, just so you'll know how important my needs are. So if I say, Ron, I need this, or I need you to do that, or I need help with such and such, and I say it's a 1. It's something that would be nice if you would help me, but it's not crucial and it's not emergent. On the other hand, if I say it's a 5, Ron, I need this, I need your help with this, and it's a 5, I need you to stop what you're doing and pretend like you're a paramedic or something, because I really, really need your help now. And a 3 is blah, 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 and you can come up with an example of a 3. So in those moments where you really need his help, see, he's not going to be a good judge on everything that you need. Gets the same level of importance to him. He doesn't know the difference between putting out a fire or putting a Band-Aid on his thumb. So it would be helpful if you would give him this scale and let him know that 1, that your help would be greatly appreciated. It's not necessarily emergent. I could do it myself if I had to, but I really want your help. 5, I really need your help desperately right now, that there's no delay. And then 3 would be, you would come up with an example for that. So then the next time you need something, from Ron, you can say, Ron, I need your help with such and such, and it's a 3. So okay, well, this is a fairly important thing then. And so now he kind of knows this is not, she just stubbed her toe or something like that. This is like a really important deal. And if he values the relationship, which you just articulated that he does indeed, then he will know, okay, well, she said this is a 4, so I need to get cracking here and pay attention, because this is a big deal.
Okay.
So
Thank you. That was helpful, I think.
Yeah, the problem is, it's not that he's trying to be insensitive. He just is not a good gauge of the severity of things, and you can help him with that.
Okay.
Hey, this is Mark Hutten. Would you like to schedule a one-on-one Zoom call? Okay, it's so simple. Just look under any of my videos in the description area. Click on this Calendly link. Now you see my calendar. Pick your month, your day, anytime that's available. Enter your name and email address. Then you'll get a follow-up email with the Zoom link on the day and time that you picked. And voila, we will talk.